Question: when you first hit California, right? What was the first yard they sent you to?
Uh, Pelican Bay,
A or B?
but B.
Uh,
But the thing is, well, no, the shoe first. Uh, when I first hit California, I landed in Tracy because I came in Northern California on Con Air, right? So they dropped me off in the Sacramento County Jail. I was there for a minute, and then the sheriff picked up on a couple of my conversations with some people, and he fucking got nervous because of all the other stuff. There was a lot of stuff dealing with investigations, lawsuits, thefts of classified national security documents, dead officials, government, Mexican government officials, just other things, right? So he panicked and he told the marshals to get me the fuck out of his jail and don't bring me back, right? So they took me to Tracy, and because I was validated, but they had my federal validation as Aryan Brotherhood. I went into K-Wing, right, which is the whole, and they just had a major melee there in the gym. You know, they had everybody stacked up in them gyms. They had like 800 people in the gym. Because Tracy is now just a reception that's got maintenance workers there. Other than that, it's really not a yard no more, right?
They shut it down completely.
They shut it down?
They completely shut it down because remember the water there was shit? It was brown?
Yeah, it was like almost semi-gelatin.
Yeah.
This fucking shit was bad. Yeah, that was from a flood in the 80s. And it did a bunch of shit, and it just, anyhow, it was horrible. It was almost like it was trying to turn into Jell-O.
Ugh, yeah.
So anyhow, I was there, and I was in the K-Wing, and they had me validated, and I was on the third tier facing L unit. L unit was kind of like SEG, but at the top third floor was the workers there, right? And you know how it is. As soon as you drive up, man, my neighbor who was an NLR, he knocked on the wall, you know, and I said, yeah. He said, hey, Wood. He says, can I see your 114D? You know, your lockup order, right? And so I gave him my lockup order. It says I'm validated Aryan Brotherhood. He said, hey, brother. He says, you know, you got the keys, you got the yard, right?
Wait. Hold on, though. I've always heard. I don't mean to cut you off, but I've always heard that federal brothers coming in, they got to go through some type of screening process, or like sometimes they're not even acknowledged.
You mean AVs?
Yeah, when they come from the feds to California. Like there's some issue with it sometimes.
No, because, well, I mean, if you're known,
true,
it wouldn't be like that. I mean, I'm well known, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, to this NLR, I wasn't well known. I mean, at that time, I mean, you know, because I'm coming in from the feds, but to the brothers, I'm well known. So, anyhow, I gave it to him. This guy next door, the NLR, he had the keys in the back there in K-Wing. Anyhow, so his name was Mumbles. So we got talking. He says, well, I got the keys. You got the keys. I told him I don't want the keys. You keep the keys. And I says, and also, listen, keep me off roll calls. I don't want my name on roll calls. And the reason I don't want my name on roll calls is for multiple reasons. All you need is a cop on the end of the tier with a pen and a piece of paper. And everybody, when they're calling off names on roll calls, you've just become members of a RICO racketeering conspiracy. And you're members of the actual the enterprise. So I explained that to him. And he said, okay, so well, we've had, you know, brothers come through here before. He said, you can believe you're not going to be here long. You guys are never kept here long. You're always sent up to the Bay or wherever. So anyhow, he says, okay, so we talked a little bit and all that. So I was there, and then there, you know, I do law and all that. So we got talking about his case, and I read some of his shit. I told him, why are you even in jail, right? And I explained things, so he started getting other stuff going to get that case off him. And some other people heard me on the tier talking. These were Northerners. a northern structure, right?
Yeah.
And they needed some help, and we got talking about it, this and that, and I started helping a youngster named Psycho with his stuff, and then it was the DA and the lead homicide detective, you know, got wind of what I was doing. They got with the warden, and I was put on a unscheduled transfer to Pelican Bay SHU. I wasn't even given hearings, nothing, and they got me the fuck out of there. But I talked to Psycho's investigator before I did. Then all of a sudden, poof, I was gone. They came like at 3 in the morning and told me to pack up. And I had a gang of legal shit. Shit weighed about 150 fucking pounds. I had to drag it behind me and handcuffed behind my back, and then leg irons down 3 flight steps, down that long hallway in Tracy, and then hook a left going towards R&R. Man, it was a motherfucker. Anyhow, I got there, and the one of the bus sergeants says, "Who is this?" He says, "Greshner." He said, "Where's he going?" He said, "Pelican Bay." He said, "No, he ain't on the bus." He said, "Oh, he's going to Pelican Bay." So then another sergeant stepped up. He said, "Man, where's Greshner at?" He says, "Over there, in a little phone booth, right?" So he said, "Pull him out. I need to talk to him." So he pulled me off by my side, just me and him. He had some paperwork in his hand. He says, "Are we gonna be okay?" I says, "What are you talking about?" He said, "Man, I'm reading your paperwork right here. It's federal paperwork." He says, "Are we gonna be safe on that bus?" I told him, "Yeah, why?" He says, "The way I'm reading this," he says, "I'm wondering if my bus is gonna fall under attack, right? Somebody trying to break you out." I told him, "No, we're fine." He said, "You're sure? I got your word?" I said, "Yeah." He looked at me, he said, "All right." So I'm going to Pelican Bay. I think I'm going to the yard, right? Because I haven't went to no hearings, nothing. I haven't been validated in the state through the process with IGI, ISU, SSU, any of that.
Their little bullshit 3-point system.
Yeah, 3-piece evidence, whole thing, none of it. They just took my federal validation. They're trying to fucking get me out of Tracy. So when we get up there, we drive into Pelican Bay. We're getting ready to go into R&R, and they're calling the guys for the SHU first. And they call my name first. And I look at him. I tell him, "I ain't going to the SHU." He said, "Oh, you're going to SHU?" I said, "No, I ain't going to the SHU. I haven't been processed, hearings, nothing." He said, "Oh, well, you're on the list. You're going to the SHU." So they get me an R&R, and we're having a little debate about that. And they searched me and all this and that. And I got fucked up knees. So they got me in handcuffs behind my back, and he wants me to kneel on this little cement stump with these fucking prickly points of concrete up through it. I told him I can't kneel on it. I got fucked up knees. He said, "Well, you got a medical chronal?" I says, "No, but it should be something in there in my federal shit." He said, "There's nothing here. You got it." I said, "No, I'm trying to talk to this guy and be reasonable." Finally, I just say, "Hey, check this out. Let's just get down to it. Fuck you. I ain't kneeling on no motherfucking stump. That's it. That's all." And then they open the door, they rush me, grab me, push me into the back wall, and they're putting leg irons on me, and he's leaning over me now. He said, "Don't you know I'll fucking kill you?" I told him, fuck your mammy. My feet didn't even touch the ground between R&R and the fucking SHU, right? So I get there, the only thing hitting the ground was my leg iron chain, so they get me there. As soon as I get in, there's a female cop. She wheels up a swivel chair, a nice soft swivel chair for me to kneel on. I looked at the cop, I said, "You see how easy it is?" Yeah, it's real simple. And then she took the leg irons off. So they put me in C1, cell 117, a cap cell, where they feed you through a hole in the wall and shit. They had me on all this fucking bullshit. So that's where I was, and they gave me an indeterminate SHU program when I had my unit classification committee. And I told them, "Man, I ain't had no hearings, no validation shit. I ain't had nothing." And there was 2 counselors in there. In California, counselors are called case managers are called counselors, and an acting warden. I forget his name. He was in there sitting in on it. And then the fucking one of the guy named Red something or something. He was one of the counselors. Turned out to be my counselor. He says, "You can appeal this decision and all that." I said, "I'm going to appeal it." So I ended up 602ing it, And they agreed. And now this guy, who was the acting warden that was sitting on my thing, had later become the warden. So I was in the shoe, like maybe, I don't know, 6 months, something like that. Like
you
a
were in
6-month
C1 the
review
whole
or
time?
something. No. I left C1 because C1 was like disciplinary.
Okay.
Everybody in there didn't have shit.
Was that the
You know
shoe
what I mean?
corridor?
Huh?
What?
That's in the shoe, yeah.
Yeah.
You ever been in Pelican Bay?
No, I haven't.
Okay,
I got
well,
people
the
I know
shoe
been there.
facilities are C and D facility.
Oh,
So,
okay.
they're both the shoe. It's C and D. Both of them are shoes.
But they had the C facility. They had all that dilemma shit with the NF there, and like they had the short corridor and then the long wing. I think like all the names confuse me sometimes.
D has the short corridor.
Oh, okay. Got you.
So, but both of them are the shoes security housing units.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
CND. No, I think they changed it. They may have changed it some now.
They got
Once
it.
they did away with the indeterminate shoe programs. I heard they changed D facility.
Yeah, they still have.
That was after I left.
They have Corcoran and Tehachapi still up, and then Pelican Bay they gutted into a 2-yard. I think what you said D facility can't be sure. I have to ask someone, but yeah, they gutted it, and then
B facility was considered, B yard was considered good, A yard was considered bad. A yard was considered you had like 72 hours to get off A yard, right? That's how that was.
For whites or for and Southern Hispanics, or just because I know a couple blacks who went to A yard and they're still good, like
couple of blacks.
Yeah, they were blood.
Well, but they got different politics.
Very true. That's why I was asking the difference between like for whites and Hispanics, it was get off, because I know B yard, bro. That's the non-programming yard for sure.
Yeah. So.
Oh yeah. I forgot to ask, man. Sorry, I'm gonna cut you off.
So I got my 602 back. You know, the administrative remedy signed by the warden. And he agreed. They violated all my due process law. They didn't give me no specific piece of evidence. They didn't give me no hearings. They didn't give me shit. They just fucking shanghaied me up to the fucking shoe. That's what they did. And which, you know, I mean, shoe is shoe. I left the shoe in the ADX Supermax over there, right? So, I mean, at that time I had like about 26 years in the fucking shoe altogether before I hit B yard. So anyhow, but before I got out, I went to this classification review, and they didn't send any of my files with me. Like in the feds, when I left the feds, let me back up for a second. Let's go back to Tracy. I had my first UCC there. I had a counselor there named Rosa Estrada, a fine Mexican gal, right? And she called me into my UCC. She was, you know, you're handcuffed behind your back, you straddle a chair. So I straddle it. She's sitting to my left, and you know, across. I'm facing the table the long way. She's off to my left, sitting in the middle of it, and then to the right, to my right side, you know, going away from me, is the lieutenant for IGI and a lieutenant for ISU. Okay, so she introduced me to them. Good morning, Miss Gresham. Hey, good morning. This is so-and-so, blah, blah, blah. Okay. Then she says, Mr. Greshner, what are you doing here? I says, yeah, I've been there about 2 weeks at that time. I said, I don't know, you tell me. A month ago, I was in the ADX doing just fine. And I just got through drinking a cup of coffee and smoking a bugler. And they came over the intercom, told me to pack my shit up. I thought I was going on a racketeering case back to Illinois. I just sent a friend of mine, a black guy, Owen Zeal, back as a witness. That's where we got a hung jury on that one, ultimately, down there. I says, and they told me, no, I'm being transferred. They didn't tell me where until I got to Oklahoma City. And he says, you know where you're going? I said, no. He says, it's a weird place called Dual Vocational Institution, Tracy, California. They're kicking you all the way out of the system. That's because I was filing lawsuits, busting them out with that whole trip out there. And all this, my shit's on the internet and on fucking LexisNexis, the whole trip, right? So, that's what I'm doing here. And she looked and she says, we don't have any of your records. Nothing. Not even medical records. They just dropped you on us. She says, but there's a little sheet, a little transcript here. Maybe it was a half-inch thick. She says, this is all they sent. She says, but let me tell you something. She says, just based on this little transcript that they sent with you, if I were in Sacramento in our interstate unit, I would have never accepted you into our system. She told me, she says, look, she started going through, she says, you have multiple institutional murders, you got hostage takings, escapes, gun battles with law enforcement agencies in the streets. She looked to the 2 lieutenants. She said, this is a fucking bad dude. I told her, let me tell you something. You know, Miss Estrada, I wasn't trying to come here. I was doing just fine in the ADX, and I got kidnapped out of that motherfucker. She said, well, I'm going to tell you something. We can't do anything with you. This is reception. She says, your DRB, Directors Review Board, normally you're here from 30 to 90 days on reception. She says, you can expect to be here a year or more.
Oh.
Just them trying to figure out what the fuck to do with you. So I says, well, I don't know. This is not me, right? So then fast forward, I wasn't there. I was there. I got there in November of 2003. In January, I got called back to the East Coast by Petey Georgia Caracos, a skinhead. Him and another skinhead killed another skinhead in Lewisburg who told on some of their comrades in the streets. And now Marek McCloskey, they call him Mad, M-A-D-D, he turned on Pete. And I had a piece of paper, a hit and miss, invisible ink stuff, that Matt had dropped in the window that I had to pick up a mailbox when we were in the ADX. And he basically said, John, why are you trying to fuck my shit up? I'm not trying to hurt Petey. I'm just doing a move trying to get out of jail. Because they were threatening to do a death penalty against these guys. But basically, he rolled over on his comrade Pete. That's all there is to it. So I wrote Petey's lawyer, and I told him, look, this is what's happened. I got fucking evidence, this hit and miss he gave me, blah, blah, blah. So they writted me out. So in January of 2004, I left Tracy, went out, caught Con Air again, flew out to the East Coast, and then there was other guys I was meeting that I know, Ralph Campina, some of the Aryan Nation guys, Richard Scuteri and all them, and then some skinheads off the East Coast that had got out of feds, but now they're in like the Virginia pens out there. We're all being called in as witnesses.
Like DMI?
Huh?
Was DMI one of them out of the Virginia prison system?
Yeah, these were skinheads off the East Coast.
Okay.
But they did some Fed time too. Anyhow, so they didn't drop us at Lewisburg. They took us to Allenwood, threw us in the hole. We were each on our own little range with high security and blah, 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 and this and that. So anyhow, PD calls me down. They introduced, my writ was writ habeas corpus ad testificando ducis tecum, meaning you're being called out to testify as a defense witness, but to bring your documents too. So I brought this hit and miss with me. Anyhow, I got on the witness stand probably about 9:30 in the morning, maybe 10. I was on it till lunch, and then I got on after lunch, and I stayed on till about 5 in the afternoon. They fucked up. They brought in a special prosecutor, U.S. attorney, to cross-examine.
All right.
I'm testifying. So they bring in this special prosecutor. This U.S. attorney, he was the one that went into Lewisburg after the Lewisburg thing, and with the AB and the DC blacks, where they accused us of killing a couple of DC blacks and stabbing a bunch more and all that. So when he went in with the FBI right after that incident, his wording was, somebody's going to die for this shit, meaning death penalties. Okay, so they bring this guy in to cross-examine me. He asked the wrong question. When he asked the wrong question, it opened up the door. And I went in, and the federal judge just let me go. Every now and then, I was sitting to the left of the bench. He would just look at me, and then he'd look back, and he'd look down at his desk, his bench, and I'm going, and I went for hours. I'm going to tell you something. I told him, let me tell you something. It got into the whole trip with the race wars, the whole trip. I went into how the government knew about it. The government started it. The government went to Marion, snatched up 5 of us, 3 brothers and 2 affiliates, moved us up to Lewisburg. It was an off-limits joint, neutral joint, according to the Director of Federal Bureau of Prisons, Kathleen Hogg Sawyer. no active Aryan Brotherhood or Mexican Mafia can go there. You know, the whole trip, and I went into it, how they deliberately did all this stuff, that they had this illegal intelligence unit at the ADX, H unit, which they call the Super Snitch unit. First one in there was Kevin Roach, then Deadeye Healy, then Richard Bernard, then Gene Bentley, then Danny Weeks, how they were fabricating cases on people, giving them documents, how they stole classified national security documents, smuggled them to the streets, got Mexican government officials killed down in Mexico, how they're trying to extort, they're going to extort Charlie Harrelson's son, because they had Charlie Harrelson and James Earl Ray on site in Dallas, Texas, during the fucking Kennedy assassination, according to a CIA and NSA document that was stolen out of Charlie Harrelson's file, because he was filing a 2255 appeal on his assassination of a federal judge, John Wood, down in San Antonio, when he'd been contracted out by a guy named Jimmy Chagra, a dope boy down there. Anyhow, they accused Charlie of fucking whacking him with a rifle and all that. So they're trying to subvert his appeal. So all these documents, classified national security documents and everything, are in this unit. They gave it to these guys to do all kinds of illegal shit with it, trying to fabricate cases on people and all that. So anyhow, there's a conspiracy going on with the SIS, which is the intel and the feds. All federal joints have SIS officers, SIS lieutenants, SIS techs. They're intel. It's like the IGI and ISU and SSU all combined in California. It's called SIS. Okay, well, they were in a conspiracy with local federal federal law enforcement field officers, FBI, DEA, ATS, all of them. So they're in bed with them, and they're fabricating case centers, giving all our fucking mail to them, our property to them, to these prisoners, so they can go through shit, blah, blah, blah. Anyhow, so I'm getting all this out, so I had to go beyond them. And what I did is I went to Jackie Reed, a black chick on BET News, and told her, listen, I'm always watching your programs, good programs, blah, blah, blah. I got to get word out to a Minister Farrakhan of Nation of Islam that they're fabricating a case on him and the Nation of Islam. I had already sent a letter to Chicago, to the editor-in-chief named James Muhammad of the Final Call newspaper, but I never got a letter back, so I thought they stole that. Now, in the feds, you can send news media mail, classified, you know, like it's legal mail, right? So I sent it to Jackie Reed, and I sent a whole stack of exhibits, classified national security documents. They can call me a liar, but there's a problem. I got all classified access codes. I got names, dates, assassinations, killings, multi-ton loads of dope coming in, fucking multi-million-dollar payouts, everything. So I told her, I says, you got to warn Farrakhan about the threat against them, and I need to get these classified documents to the National Security Advisor, Condoleezza Rice. George Bush had just got into the presidency, and the kid, the youngster in the White House, his National Security Advisor is Condoleezza Rice. I need to get these documents to her because it's a threat to national security and U.S. citizens, United States government, foreign government officials, everything. So we need to get this out there. So now I'm laying back, and I told her I watch your program every day. So, and I sent a certified mail return receipt. Okay. About 5 days later, I'm watching. Normally, she stands up. She's talking into a silver microphone that's hanging down. She's standing there. She's got a sheet of paper she's reading from. Then when she's getting ready to go to a commercial, she kind of puts the sheet of papers on her chest and looks down. It fades to a commercial. She doesn't have a set, an actual news set she's sitting at that time. Okay, so about 5 days later, she's reading these papers, and I'm watching. And she puts the papers on her chest, looks down, and says real low. She says, this straight up, she says, Condi will be here tomorrow. Bam, got him. So she got these excerpts from classified national security documents that these guys stole, okay? Now, that I got, because when Danny Weeks ratted them all off, started ratting on the rats in the government, they put him back there with me, and he hid them. He hid them behind a fucking mirror for me, and I filed a lawsuit against government, and he put a bunch of them in as exhibits. Then I got the court clerk to sell me 16 pages at 50 cents a page, because I told him I'm the lead plaintiff, right? So what you do is you cut a government check, a federal government check, for $8, and then they're going to sell me classified national security documents. That's actually what they did. So, yeah, that's right. The clerk didn't know what the fuck he was doing. So anyhow, so I get it to Condoleezza Rice, they get it to George Bush, and I tell them, listen, they're on me, trying to shut me down. They're trying to fucking take me out. They twice tried to take me out. They took out Spanky. They killed him. And they killed Britt Bay. They lynched Britt Bay, but they poisoned Spanky with a liver toxin. That's a whole different story. I got it going. I got some of the, I was warned by a staff member, and then I got some of the toxin. I smuggled it out to a U.S. senator. He got an investigation going to Federal Bureau of Prisons. During the investigation, said, yeah, this is a liver toxin. Where the fuck did he get this from? I got it from you, fools. You motherfuckers been putting it in my food. Anyhow, so all this shit's coming out during Petey's trial. And there's a news guy in there, you know, how they sit in corners with a little laptop. Anyhow, he's typing it all down. Right after that, they pulled the fucking plug on the whole racketeering case on the East Coast in Pennsylvania, and they just shot it out to Santa Ana. They shut it down. So, and that probably saved, you know, they would have probably got some death penalties up there. So anyhow, in California, they didn't get none.
John, I got a question. Was this around, is this the same RICO case that they sent everyone to Orange County and put them in Terminal Island?
Yeah, that was the Santa Ana RICO case in the early 2000s. Like finally 2006, 2007 during the trials. Okay. But it was supposed to go down before that. It was supposed to go down like New Year or during the fucking Super Bowl period or something in the year 2000, right?
Yeah.
But their whole case got fucked up. Once I got wind of what was going on, I filed lawsuits and everything. So, anyhow, they pulled the plug. And so fast forward, there I am now in Tracy, and now I'm fucking up their murder case with Psycho and them in the town of Tracy. So they snatched me up on an illegal fucking transfer to Pelican Bay and throw me in the shoe with no hearings done. So I 602 it. And when I go to the hearing, the AWs know they're in there. They don't even know I got this 602 yet, and it's been granted. And I'm saying, you know, what the fuck am I doing in the shoe? You got me validated. You haven't validated me with 3 pieces of evidence. None of this shit under California. It's apples and oranges, the federal validation, state, blah, blah, blah. And this guy's looking at my little... And I said, what about this fucking 602 I got that's saying you got to release me to the yard? And the AW looked up. He said, what are you talking about? I said, yeah, this is... you know, this fucking, I got it from the warden. I looked at my counselor. I says, you know, the guy that was the acting warden. He said, oh, no, he's the warden now. I said, well, he approved my 602. So they says, hold up. They sent us back to my block. They fucking, I got the 602, the counselor copied it. He looked at me, he says, you're right. They ordered you released to B-Yard. So I went back and sat down again at the, in the review hearing. And the guy, the AW, saying, man, I don't feel safe with this guy in our yard. He says, he's got the same little transcript he's reading from. He's saying, look at this shit. He says, this fucking guy's got multiple fucking homicides in prison, stabbings, escapes, shootouts. They motherfucking escape shit using aircraft and people in the streets. He said, we need to just send him down to Corcoran, the Corcoran shoe. That's what he was trying to do, just slough me off on Corcoran. But he said, all right, well, we're going to put you off a week and bring you back. So they brought me back next week. And he's saying, oh, yeah, okay, release to B-Yard. And they had to release me to B-Yard. But when I got to B-Yard, normally you're CTQ'd for up to 10 days, confined to quarters. They had me CTQ'd for like 23 days. Finally, they pulled me out, took me into my review thing to release me to the yard. And they says, okay. They says,
hey, what year was this?
Just 1 second. They says, there's like a bunch of captains in their AWs. They said, listen, don't even say nothing. They said, listen, this guy come in from the fads, this and that, blah, blah, blah. They fucked up on his validation, sent him to the shoe. The warden released him. We can't even put him in that sake because we have no reason to. They says, you're going to be on B-Yard. Don't get comfortable. You're going to be on the first thing smoking out of here when you're motherfucking, because we don't want you on yard. You can participate on yard and everything, but no programs, nothing. You ain't going to be able to get involved in anything. So I was there. I was there until 2005, maybe March or April, and I caught a bus out of there. That's why I left there.